Z to Z Podcast presents Review Z.
Good morning, good evening, or good day, and welcome to the Review Z Podcast, the game review of the Z to Z Podcast. The game has achievements, then we try to cover it here. I'm your host, Damien, and thank you for listening. If you've listened to the Z to Z Podcast in the past, then you're familiar with our format. We bring you a separate weekly show covering just reviews of new and sometimes overlooked Xbox titles. And don't forget to check out the regular Z to Z Podcast while you're at it. That show's good too, just like this one, but we have more vitamin D. So, this week I'm joined by Joe, Randy, and Warren. Joe and I will be trying to catch a pigeon in the inner world, while Randy and Warren will be searching for a cure and vaccine. And with that, hi there, Joe.
Hi.
Hi. So, The Inner World. So, this was published by Head Up Games, developed by Studio Fizbin, I guess it's pronounced Fizbin, released to Xbox One on March 31st, 2017, with an Xbox Live store price of $14.99 US. Now, this was a Steam PC title well before being released to console, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's not a fully new title, but I will say, for one of the many ports that we're seeing out here, I like this. I'll kind of turn over to you to let you start, but I'm thinking this is a good one. So,
yeah. Well, I absolutely love point-and-click adventure games. They're what I grew up playing, to be perfectly honest. Day of the Tentacle and Monkey Island. So I was really excited to be able to review this one, I'm also really pleased because I was streaming it on Beam and it actually saved. So woohoo! I have videos of the first 2 chapters of gameplay where you can watch me bumbling around and failing to solve puzzles. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. The artwork is really cute, and going between the hotspots is a little bit annoying. I keep on cycling past them. I probably missing a trick to actually move directly to the one I want, but aside from that, it's so
to give people some background on what this game's about, so as you said, it is a point and click game. So you start basically it kind of starts with cutscenes. And what is your character's name? I always forget. Robert. And there's your master, whatever, call him president, prime minister, sort of Conroy. Yeah.
I kind of got the impression that he sort of was looking after you, kind of.
Yeah, but you could also tell early on that he is obviously in charge of this entire city.
Yeah.
Because everybody looks to Conroy as the guard. So you lose his pigeon.
No.
The Zophos, or
you lose the pendant. The pigeon steals it. Well, the pigeon eats it and then runs off.
Yeah. So you suddenly have to go chase after this pigeon, and you're now thrust into the world. So where you were living in Conroy, your guardian's castle, you are now thrust into the common village, and you're now getting the exposure to your sheltered life is not everything you thought it to believe. And so at least starting out, you're trying to get this pigeon, to get this pendant back to make Conroy happy. And like to the other illusions you made with Monkey Island and all that, this is kind of like, for me as well, that point and click I'm used to. I have an objective, but it's not a straightforward path of how do you get there. You're picking up objects, getting them to interact with each other, and hopefully solving the puzzle so you can advance on to the next section.
Yeah, and the cool thing about this is it awards achievements, most of the missable achievements, for doing something silly, for doing something that's not actually solving the puzzle. So that to me was quite interesting. I don't think it's a spoiler to say sort of at the very beginning you're trying to catch a pigeon, because I missed the first missable. You're trying to catch a pigeon, and if you don't sew up the end of the thing you're catching it with, it'll just go straight through. And I found that quite amusing. That's the first achievement I got.
Yeah, I would say so. and this is kind of the trade-off, and I was thinking about this before we were recording, and I remember in older point-and-clicks, or I always hate to say point-and-clicks because I used to play them with the directional keyboard and you type in commands, right? But you would – it was like was there a lot more options on to do random things that actually had no bearing on your current objective, yet at the same time – didn't, because like here, right, like you, as you said, there's the to catch the pigeon, you take your item and you have to make sure to tie it off, but part of it is like that trial and error. I'll try this to that thing, I'll try this thing to that thing, I'll do that thing over, there's a lot of that trial and error of trying to figure out which two things are supposed to interact. And it seems very, sometimes there's that, how much are you on rails in the sense of, if you're not doing, does the game let you veer off very far from what your current stated objective is? Because I remember some adventure games, it would seem like, man, you could be completely lost and forget what you were even trying to do. Where this, it didn't really seem like you were rewarded for doing things kind of out of sequence, but it didn't seem like it was like you could stray super far from that.
Yeah, I'd agree there. With stuff like Day of the Tentacle, you had an entire house to explore and 3 different time zones and, 3 different characters. And yeah, I mean, you could do things. There was no prescribed order. Obviously, you had to do some things to unlock others. But with this one, you seem to be sort of contained to smaller areas. I think you start off with a small bit, and then you have a slightly bigger bit where you've got more areas to explore, and then you have and then maybe you have another little bit. But yeah, it's not sort of a case of, oh God, I've got, like with the Artifacts Mundi games, it's like, oh God, now I've got to go all the way to the other end of the world type thing to find this puzzle to then go all the way back. Within a few screens, you were pretty much guaranteed to do that.
So and that was one of the nice things I find. This was it was not dramatically different out of like what to expect out of a point and click game. If you've played a point and click game before, this is very quick to pick up. It took me a little while to get used to the pressing the left bumper, right bumper, or actually pressing X first to get the hotspots to come up and then rotating around them. But once I got the hang of which sequence to make sure I'm pressing X before I'm pressing the left and right bumper, it actually was like, oh, okay, this isn't too bad to navigate. Okay, this is actually kind of, I like how they did the layout, but it definitely was one. It took a minute to press pause, look at the controller layout, and really think about, okay, that's what I need to do.
Yeah. I mean, the controls were simple. I inevitably, when I was trying to combine something from the inventory with either something from the inventory or something outside, and I picked the wrong item, I'd hit B way too many times and have to start again. But, it wasn't completely onerous.
Yeah. And then, as you said, so hand-drawn graphic. The animation's really nice. I think they did definitely a good job. It is very visually appealing to look at. I like that the story is funny. Your main character is, again, however we want to phrase it, you're naive. I'll give you that.
Very naive. You've basically grown up in a cotton ball wool bubble thing, where you've had no exposure to the world, and the only information you've got is from the man that's basically effectively seems to be sort of holding you hostage almost, but you don't think you are because he's taking care of you. You think of yourself as an apprentice. But your knowledge is strictly controlled, so you go out into the world and you don't even know what money is, and there's a very confusing conversation with the garbage dealer at the beginning, and it's like it's hilarious.
So I think they did definitely a good job with the characters there. While they're, as I said, you come in, your main character is definitely naive, but it's not at a painful level. It is kind of funny the way the conversations flow and all that, they make it work. So I thought that they definitely did a very good job for that, of kind of bringing you, kind of drawing you in early on. And again, it's not like I really wanted, when cutscenes were happening, I look at it this way. I get to an Artifacts Mundi game now. At this point, I just skip past cutscenes. Like, whatever, hold B to skip. This one I find myself watching because it helped with the story. They're done very well. The animation's good, and you kind of are a little more vested in the story, I feel. It's definitely one where you kind of want to see what's going on, not necessarily because if you skipped it, you wouldn't know what to do, but because it's actually, hey, this is kind of that rewarding, got through, the chapter without using the tips and all that. That I think would... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say they're not overly long either, so it's not particularly, taxing to have to watch them, and it gives you the context for the rest of the game. You could speed run it in sort of 3 to 4 hours, but I had much more fun spending 2 hours just running around chapter 1. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's so for people, like, from a gamer score perspective, if you did not want to, I guess, enjoy the game, if you didn't want to solve the puzzles on your own. And again, none of the puzzles were overly challenging, but they're definitely, in that vein. It's not all of them are the most straightforward, obvious. It does take a little bit of trial and error. But to your point, like, if you wanted to just watch a walkthrough, you could easily blaze through this game in that 3 to 4 hour mark. But I think you kind of missed the rewarding aspect of doing point and click games and,
you
solving
the whole
those
point of the game. I mean, if
you
you're
get
just
the
doing
story.
Well, I suppose, but I think half the fun of a game is, exploring, and it's not a massively long game, so it doesn't really cost you too much extra time to just take your time and try and figure it out on your own. And then, okay, if you have to do a second playthrough because you missed stuff, then go for it. You can do that real quick.
Yeah, and once you know the main puzzles of where things are and what you're really doing to advance the chapters, going through on a second run through to get the missables is not too laborious. I mean, I think, like, for example, chapter 1, you could get through chapter 1 if you know all the solutions right away in half an hour, if even.
If that, yeah.
I wish there was a run button. It is kind of sometimes annoying going from one screen to the other after a while where you're going, did I run?
No, the annoying thing is that you walk to the edge of the screen and think, it's going to go into the next area. No, I have to select the hotspot and go enter whichever area it is. It's like, God. When it's a street, I mean, come on. And then I've gone too far and then it's got to walk back and then go in because the hotspot's in a different area. It's a little, I want to say, it reminds me a little bit of Fable with that. I don't know why that's triggering in my head.
Yeah. No, but I know what you mean. Yeah, like I walked down the alley and they're like, oh yeah.
No, not Fable. Sam and Max. I mean, Fable does it as well, but very Sam and Maxy with the whole walking back to go exactly the same place because the hotspot was in a different place.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that, I think overall, I recommend this. I think from within the genre, it's a solid title. They did a good job. The price point, $15 for what you get out of this, I think is very fair. Mm-hmm. If you could get it cheaper than $15, I think that's a steal. But $15 for me is not unheard of what they're asking for and what you get for the.
Well, I mean, it's £12 in English money. To me, that's completely reasonable. And if you look at the completion estimate, it doesn't look great, but then it's taken me 4 hours to get to the end of chapter 2. So if you're going to play it properly, you get your money's worth. Yeah. It's like 2 cinema tickets, and you definitely get that out of it.
Yeah. So I think that's then both of us put that as a recommend.
Oh yeah, 2 thumbs up.
All right. So I guess with that, we'll kick it over to Randy and Warren to see if they've found that cure yet, or at least found their vaccine. Thanks.
Or throwing the controller in frustration.
Yay! Zombie games.
All right. So I'm joined this week by Warren.
Howdy.
And we are going to talk about Vaccine. This is a game developed by RNC, which is what was it? Rainy Night Creations. Oh,
Correct.
Developed and published by Rainy Night Creations. There we go. It has an Xbox Live store price of $9.99, and it is, I would say, pretty definitely a survival horror game. And so what this is you are thrown into this house, and then there's like a person having a seizure on a bed for some reason.
Mr. Twitchy.
Why that? Yeah, I'm not sure why that person is vibrating and none of the other infected people are. That's never really
because the other
explained.
infected people apparently can't be fixed with the vaccine, like your friend, whom you have to endlessly get the vaccine for.
Yes. Hey, spoilers, okay?
So,
just in case you didn't know.
My bad.
This is now. We'll get into the story here. So let's just start this off. This is not a good game. I really, really, really wanted to like it, and I really tried, but it is just not a good game. There are so many things wrong with it, and it does so many things that are bad game things, from like things that we left behind generations ago, just all come back in this game in the worst way. So yeah, the story doesn't make any sense. You've got this like interdimensional house or something that keeps looping, and anyway, so some of the nice things, I guess, is all procedurally generated. So every time you play is different. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. Sometimes I think it's probably impossible. We'll get to that. So what did you think of it, Warren?
Honestly, I really did not enjoy this game at all. In fact, the procedurally generated part is one of the things that really ground on me after a couple plays, because you start to kind of build a mental image as you play through a level as to what room links into what. And you end up playing it a few times in one night, and you just start getting lost. You're like, oh yeah, this 4-corner room. I go north to the 4-corner room, and I end up on, no, that's not where I wanted to be. And then you're backtracking, and you're like, wait a minute, no. And then the timer ticking down on you, you're like, I don't have time for this. Oh my God. And then the controls.
Yeah. Exactly. So like that, and my biggest issue with this game, absolutely biggest issue, is the timer. Because it's fine if you have to backtrack. It's fine if the house is confusing, if you can take time to explore it. But the timer defeats the entire purpose of that. You have a timer. It starts off at 30 minutes. The second round, it drops to 20. The third round, it drops to 10. Then every round after that, it cuts another 30 seconds off. And 10 minutes is tight. Like when you're sprinting through that house and you know where all of the items spawn that you need and how to do everything, 10 minutes is tight. Now, to get all the achievements, I think I was down to 8.5 minutes, and I needed to do 3 more runs. So that puts you at around 6 or 7 minutes. You have to complete a run in 6 or 7 minutes to get the last achievement. That's tough. It's possible, but it's tough, and it's going to take a lot of luck because the size of the house is not consistent. It changes every time it's regenerated. I mean, some houses you can complete in, I'm sure, 5 minutes, but some you would be really, even if you've got tons of ammo, tons of supplies, you do everything just right, you're going to have a hard time getting it under 10 minutes. And it's kind of a shame that it depends so much on luck with that timer. It's
not just the luck with the timer. It's the luck with the placement of the items too, because those are always in different spots.
Yeah, and without a glitch that I found, and sometimes I wonder if there's even a gun in the entire house. I mean, I don't think you can kill the crawlers with a knife, but you need at least a repellent or health packs. And if you didn't find a gun, if you didn't find a repellent, you don't have any health packs, you hit a crawler, that's it. It's game over.
Well, I've had 2 runs in a row where I just found lots of knives, but never found guns, never found ammo.
You found more than one knife?
Yes, I found more than one knife.
I never found a second knife. I mean, except in between rounds, because one always spawns in the first room. But
Nope, I found more knives on the floor. It's like, oh, hey, we're just going to taunt you this time.
I don't even know why you have to pick up the knife in the first place. Because it's always given to you. There's no reason to pick it up again. I don't know. It's very strange. The spelling is really bad. I don't know if maybe Rainy Night, it's not English as a first language. I didn't check that. But, like, there's some rough spelling errors. And that's another one. What was I going to say?
Kind of going into that for a little bit. They do try to develop the story, like you were saying a little bit, with these notes that you find on the ground. Though with the timer and the fact that you've got these zombie creatures trying to kill you, it doesn't really lead you to wanting to stop to take the time to read the backstory.
I thought the notes pause the timer.
Do they? Oh, I never even thought of that. I just assumed that time kept ticking.
I could be wrong, but I assumed they paused it. But to be fair, I did always kill all the enemies in the room before I looked at the notes. So,
well, probably not a bad idea.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they don't. I'll have to check that. Yeah. So, and that's really the extent of the story. It tells you at the beginning, despite your best efforts, your friend was infected again and then has a seizure, and then you go look for a vaccine, and then there's some notes on the ground sometimes, and they talk about it's.
Why do they live in this house? Like, if your buddy keeps getting infected, you figure why wouldn't they have moved out?
Well, I think the idea was that every time you use the vaccine, you like travel to another dimension or something, and then. So we're going to go full spoilers because, I mean, this story is like 8 paragraphs in total, if that, and is totally incoherent, doesn't make any sense. So yeah, the idea is like it just loops. Like you find the vaccine and then you just go to another dimension or whatever, and the same thing happens, and you're trapped in the house and you can't escape. Now there is a way to solve the mystery. I haven't done that yet. I was saving that for last. So. I mean, I guess there's an end. So, like, with that one, if you get that achievement, you can't continue your run because that ends your run. So, like, I guess you have to loop the game. You have to loop the game 8 times to get all the achievements and then solve the house. So, you can't. I mean, you could solve the house on your 9th loop if you wanted to and get all the achievements in one run, but that'd be tough. So I haven't gotten the ending. Maybe there's more to it, but I kind of doubt it. Yeah, I think there's 3 enemies. There's a few different variants of the regular zombie, but they're just cosmetic. Then there's the crawler, and then there's the boss.
There's bats.
Yes, bats and rats. Rats are the most dangerous thing in the game. Because like they're too fast. I swear, rats are.
It's hard to duck
dangerous.
down and get a good swipe at them quick. You're right.
because they move too quick, and they just come out of nowhere.
Which kind of brings me to my most annoying thing in the game, which is the controls. Although, like you say, I know they're trying to go for this whole Resi feel. The fact that you have to first move your character left or right, and then walk straight forward.
It's tank controls.
Exactly. Why are we doing this when you have all these other things kind of going against you? It's so difficult to line up yourself with the rats, or even just a door. Trying to get the doors open sometimes.
Well, and some of the items, like on particularly on the end tables, lining up with the items is just terrible. And then, which would be fine again if there was no timer. Like, there was no timer in Resident Evil, was there?
Not that I recall.
Yeah, because it seems like these games are meant to be played slowly, not as fast as you can, because the controls are awkward, the cameras are awkward, and you need to take your time to make sure you don't get killed. But it kind of artificially ramps up the difficulty by adding this timer that then makes the game impossible to play. And it's really frustrating because like you get these later levels, and sometimes some runs you need to find a key to get through a door that's necessary to progress. Sometimes you don't. And these keys are basically 2-dimensional, so you can't see them. And all the items, as far as I can tell, will sparkle eventually. So if you stay on one camera angle long enough, the items will sparkle, and you're like, oh, there's an item there. Maybe I didn't see it because of the angle or the colors or whatever. But when you've only got 7 minutes to complete a house, you're not waiting around to see if things sparkle. You're just running. You're not even picking up items unless they're absolutely necessary. So the fact that you need these keys that are almost impossible to see. There are some placements of certain keys on certain objects that you actually cannot see unless they sparkle. So it becomes really frustrating really quickly. And the other thing that's annoying too is, particularly in the earlier runs, is there are certain camera angles where you can't see enemies. Like it's straight, it's right in front of you, and just because it's a fixed camera angle, you can't move it, and it cuts off half the room. And there's an enemy over there, and the crawler killed me because I couldn't see him because he was like half an inch in front of my face, but the camera didn't change till I was in his line of sight, and then he killed me. So it's just got like all these problems, and there's just so few redeeming features that, because I don't know, I didn't mind the controls as much as you did, but yeah, it's tough. I don't know. What do you have any redeeming features? I'm being like sunshine Randy.
To be as sunshiny as possible. I mean, they did a good job with making the rooms look unique. It's definitely like, at least as far as of being able to make like a mental picture per run. Yes, you can definitely go, okay, this room into this room into this room. They don't blend together badly. They did a good job just making those distinguishable. Yeah. Okay, I guess that's really about all I got.
And now, like I said at the beginning, I really wanted to like this game, but objectively, it is a bad game. It's got so many of the things that make a bad game from that era that it's trying to mimic, that the things it does well just don't make up for it. So even for fans of the genre, I could not really recommend this game to you, unless you're going for like a leaderboard like position or something. There's really, just avoid it. It's not good.
Yeah, for $10, there's many better survival horrors out there.
Wait until the Resident Evil remaster goes on sale or something.
Yeah, right. If this is trying to be Resi, then just wait for Resi.
Yeah.
Honest to God,
it did. Now, to be fair, too, the graphics did look very of that era. I kind of like that, actually, because we've seen a lot of these pixel graphics. We haven't seen a lot of like PlayStation 1, Sega CD kind of graphics.
Yeah, this is
Sega
definitely
Saturn.
like a Sega CD kind of feel to it.
Yeah, which I kind of like that, because as you know, I'm kind of into those kind of games. But yeah, still can't recommend it. So with that, we'll catch you. Well, I'm taking a couple weeks off, but the rest of the show, we'll catch you next week.